Step into a gripping journey through the life and infamy of one of America's most notorious serial killers, Richard Ramirez, infamously dubbed the Night Stalker. This presentation isn't merely a retelling of his chilling exploits. It's an exploration into the sinister forces that shaped his path, the far-reaching consequences of his actions, and the broader implications on how modern society defines and confronts the concept of evil. Richard Ramirez's reign of terror spanned from June 1984 to August 1985, a period that plunged California into fear and paranoia. His victims ranged from young children to elderly individuals, demonstrating a level of unpredictability that made him all the more terrifying. But who was Richard Ramirez before he became the Night Stalker? To fully comprehend his path to infamy, we must delve into his early life. Born on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas, Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez was the youngest of 5 siblings, growing up in a family riddled with discord and instability. His early years were marked by a strained household dynamic, with his father's strict discipline often spilling over into violent episodes, leaving a profound impact on the young boy. His father, a strict disciplinarian, was known for his violent outbursts, which often left a mark on young Richard. As a child, Ramirez suffered multiple head injuries, one of which required over 30 stitches after he was struck by a falling dresser. Studies have often linked such traumatic brain injuries to impulsive and violent behavior later in life. Adding to this already volatile environment was the profound influence of Ramirez's older cousin, Mike Ramirez. A Vietnam War veteran, Mike not only exposed Richard to graphic and deeply disturbing images from his time in combat, but also glorified acts of violence as a form of dominance and survival. This toxic mentorship reached its horrific climax when Mike fatally shot his wife in front of Richard, a traumatic event that served as both a formative moment and a tipping point in shaping the young Ramirez's psychological trajectory. A Vietnam War veteran, Mike exposed young Richard to graphic images of torture and murder from his time in combat. More disturbingly, Mike later murdered his own wife in front of Richard, an event that undoubtedly left an indelible scar on the impressionable teenager. As Ramirez transitioned into adulthood, his early exposure to violence, combined with substance abuse and an emerging fascination with Satanism, created a perfect storm. He began committing petty crimes before escalating to burglaries, assaults, and eventually, murder. His criminal activities were marked by a distinct lack of remorse and a chilling embrace of his dark impulses. One of the defining characteristics of Ramirez's crimes was their sheer randomness. Unlike many serial killers who focus on a particular demographic, Ramirez defied profiling by targeting individuals of diverse ages, genders, and backgrounds, reflecting an unsettling randomness that underscores the erratic and deeply psychological nature of his crimes. This unpredictability made him nearly impossible to profile, further intensifying public fear. His method of operation was equally varied. He used guns, knives, and blunt objects, leaving behind a trail of chaos and devastation. This erratic behavior is starkly reflected in the accounts of his victims, each one a chilling testament to the horror he unleashed. Here are some of the lives he tragically ended. Jenny Vinco was Richard Ramirez's first victim. The 79-year-old woman was stabbed and strangled in her home while she slept. Ramirez also sexually assaulted her and left satanic symbols in the house. Vinco's murder marked the first example of Ramirez's signature style. Maria Hernandez was shot by Richard Ramirez while she was home alone. Ramirez fired a gun at her, but Hernandez managed to survive the attack. However, her friend, Dale Okazaki, was shot and killed during the same incident. This killing showcased Ramirez's chaotic and brazen approach. Vincent Zatzara and his wife were victims of Ramirez. Zatzara was shot after he woke up, and his wife was killed after Ramirez sexually assaulted her. This murder demonstrated Ramirez's dark and sadistic behavior. William Doy was another of Richard Ramirez's victims. He was shot in his home during an intrusion by Ramirez. There was significant violence inflicted on Doy before and after his death, and satanic symbols were found at the crime scene. The media played a pivotal role in crafting Ramirez's public persona, often blending factual reporting with sensationalized narratives. For instance, headlines referring to him as the Night Stalker amplified the fear he instilled, while courtroom footage of his satanic gestures turned him into a symbol of malevolent notoriety. Such portrayals fed public hysteria and ensured that Ramirez became a lasting figure in the annals of criminal infamy. The nickname Night Stalker, coined by the press, painted him as a nocturnal predator, a symbol of unrelenting fear that gripped California. This sensationalized portrayal not only fed public hysteria, but also added a layer of notoriety that Ramirez seemed to relish. Courtroom footage of him flashing a pentagram drawn on his palm and declaring allegiance to Satan cemented his image as the embodiment of evil. But how did he manage to evade capture for so long? Part of the answer lies in the lack of advanced forensic technology at the time. Fingerprint databases were rudimentary, and DNA evidence was not yet a standard investigative tool. However, it was ultimately a fingerprint that led to his downfall. After committing his final known murder in August 1985, Ramirez's fingerprints were found on a stolen car. This crucial piece of evidence allowed authorities to identify and publicize his identity. On August 30th, 1985, Ramirez was captured by an angry mob in East Los Angeles after he was recognized from a newspaper photograph. The mob detained him until police arrived, marking the end of a 14-month-long nightmare. During his trial, Ramirez's lack of remorse and disturbing courtroom behavior, including making satanic gestures, shocked the nation. He was convicted of 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. Sentenced to death, he spent over 2 decades on death row before dying of complications related to B-cell lymphoma in 2013. What truly cemented Richard Ramirez as one of history's most infamous serial killers? Was it the sheer brutality of his crimes, the calculated randomness of his victims, or the sinister persona he so openly embraced? Was it the brutality of his crimes, the randomness of his victims, or the chilling persona he cultivated? Perhaps it was a combination of all these factors. His case forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of evil, the impact of childhood trauma, and the role of societal failures in creating monsters. As we conclude this deep dive, I'd like to hear your thoughts. What do you think drives someone to commit such atrocities? Could a more supportive environment in his early years have altered his path? Or was Ramirez destined to become the Night Stalker, regardless of his circumstances? Let's discuss in the comments below. If you found this video engaging, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the dark and mysterious corners of human history. Your support helps us continue exploring these compelling stories. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay curious and stay safe.